Well, let's stay with that Senekel story and speak now to Police Ministry spokesperson Lirandzu Themba. Good evening to you, Lirandzu. I know that you've just arrived back in Pretoria. Is the Police Ministry happy with the way everything went today from a security perspective?
Absolutely, Sally. What we are seeing from the ministry's point of view, as well as just the overall justice cluster point of view, is that sanity and leadership prevailed today. This is demonstrated by the fact that not a single stun grenade or a rubber bullet was fired. We know that one person was arrested for being in possession of an illegal firearm. We also have noted that there were no worrisome incidents reported in Senegal. And of course, the men and women in blue, really we have to give them, credit for actually maintaining law and order in that town. Of course, we knew that there were lots of tensions going in there, and they seem to have done the job of the day. And we really are happy with the outcome of what happened today, yes.
Absolutely. So all told, great relief, but there are a few incidents. I just want to go through them with you. In some of the footage, I saw farmers with guns in the city or in the town itself. I'm just wondering how they got through security checks.
So what we did, Sally, was that the operational plan really spoke to how do we cordon off the court? How do we make sure that the property of the court is protected? How do we make sure that the people gathered, the protesters gathered at the court are also protected? But also, how do we make sure that overall, when it does spill over outside the precinct of the court, how do we maintain that? And one of the plans that were put in place was to put in place roadblocks. There was one last night, and there was another one at 4 a.m. this morning. And in those roadblocks, we were able to turn back about 30 people, undesirable characters, if we had to put it that way, people that were in possession of firearms and weapons that could have really just flared the sort of tensions that already exist in the town. So we also do know that while there were people that were being bussed in and were coming into the town, there are people that were from the town, and I guess those will be the ones that will have fallen.
All right, so it was the farmers who actually live in the town who were there with their guns. I see. Okay, that does explain it. Could you tell me a little bit more about the incident? Govan Whittles was telling me what actually happened. We understand that a motorbike may have driven into the crowd of EFF supporters, and then thereafter some stones were thrown at some of the farmers gathered nearby. Can you confirm that incident, and then that is how it played out?
I really cannot. I have not received personally of that sort of report, but what I can tell you is that the incidents that did take place in Senekel, as I've mentioned, they were not necessarily worrisome incidents. That report hasn't come to me. When it does, we can really get back to you, Sally, and give you more details on that.
No problem. One thing that was worrying to see was that there were a lot of EFF supporters, and I'm not sure what the limit on crowds is for protests under COVID, but it looked like there were many hundreds of supporters, no social distancing, and I didn't see any masks, or very few. You did give us an assurance yesterday that all COVID protocols would be observed. Clearly that didn't happen. Why is that?
Well, we will always encourage South Africans to adhere to what the President has told each and every one of us, that while we are at level 1, we need to still maintain the social distancing, wear our masks, and essentially not act as if this pandemic has gone, and that's not the case. But Sally, as I've also indicated yesterday in our interview, is that as a police service, our biggest worry was to make sure that law and order is maintained. And what then also we needed to do was to also ensure that the Disaster Management Act is still adhered to. The numbers we're talking and asking about, we know that regulations stipulate that about 500 people are allowed or are permitted to gather, and this wasn't necessarily the case. But Sally, I think your viewers and yourself would also understand that what was at the most important of today was to ensure that the tensions that were building over the week simmer down.
Sure.
People find themselves and level heads really prevail, and this is what we would hoped had happened, and this is what had happened.
Yeah, I mean,
but
certainly, Lirandzu. Sorry, just to jump in there, clearly there'd been a lot of planning and a lot of people. The leaders clearly had been spoken to. And the only question I have is around what is happening in the town tonight. Is there any fear from the security side, from the police's side, that there might be, small groups of people who take the law into their own hands and cause trouble?
Yes, so the operational plan that I alluded to earlier on takes in and factors in the fact that it's not just about Friday, but also looking at what is expected, forecasting essentially, Sally. The plan is that we need to make sure that everyone has dispersed peacefully, and law enforcement is still going to be at hand. We know that there were a number of police officers that really painted the town blue, essentially, and those officers are still going to be stationed. I won't be able to reveal for how long, but just to make sure that the scene that we saw today, which spoke to leadership and sanity prevailing, they really are maintained throughout the evening and possibly throughout the weekend as well.
I think that's a very good idea, and thank you very much for giving us an update on the situation. Lirandzu Themba, who speaks, of course, for our police minister. Let's stay